Hi there guys, how you all doing? My name is Tim and today we are going to be discussing the Zombie World deck profile that I provided for you last week and talking through some of the key cards that we can find within that deck and how they help with the synergy of the deck and how they work towards making sure that your opponent's life is a little bit of a misery using Zombie World. So with that, please do leave a subscribe down below, comment down below if you enjoy playing with Zombie World at all. If you've given the deck a try, then please do let me know what you think about it. It's not a meta deck by any sense of the imagination. It definitely isn't, but it can cause a few issues for some decks in the meta, which is what I kind of wanted to discuss here as well. So without further ado, let's take a look at these cards that I've got lined up for you. We're going to start this key card breakdown by looking at the title card of the deck. We've got Zombie World here, which is obviously the deck is named after it, so it's one of the most important cards in the strategy that we're going to be using. So Zombie World works, it is a floodgate, but it's also like it's like you use it more of like a pseudo floodgate, I suppose. So the floodgate effect part is really not all that useful for us. Neither player can tribute summon monsters except for zombie type monsters. Tribute summoning is just not a thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Particularly anymore. We don't use tribute summoning all that much. There's not many decks that really want to be tribute summoning and things like that. So that's really not all that useful. But the first effect is incredibly useful, and I'm going to be talking through how it is useful by showing you one of the decks that is currently very high up on the meta and how it just breaks down the entire main strategy that that deck wants to run through. So all monsters on the field and in any graveyard become zombie type monsters. So lots of Yu-Gi-Oh! Requires you to have specific monsters on the field and things like that. There is obviously generic cards which can be used regardless of what type things are. But let's take a look at a deck which is very specific in what it uses, and that is 10 Pi Dragons. Now I'd like to thank my friend Antonio, Gorilla Core Kong, for lending me his 10 Pi Dragon deck for the purposes of this. So thank you very much, Antonio. I really do appreciate it. Go and check out his channel. There will be a link in the description down below. Okay, so if we look at the 10 Pi Dragon cards, all of the cards have got specific effects for if you've got fire dragon monsters on the field. So, for example, 10 Pi Dragon Pydra here, you take no battle damage from battles involving your fire dragon monsters. Well, quite a lot of times when Antonio's been dueling me using these 10 Pies and practicing the strategy, he will attack into me, even though I've got higher attack monsters than him, because he knows that he can't take damage from those battles. Well, now we can, because it won't be a fire dragon monster, it will be a fire zombie monster on the field. Then we've got Chandra here, who can special summon himself if you control a fire dragon monster. Well, you won't control a fire dragon monster, you'll control a fire zombie monster if Zombie World is on the field. So Chandra can't use its special summon effect. I mean, it's a really good normal summon anyway, but it's you know, getting that special summon out of the way so that you can't use it is fantastic. Then we got Fadra here, and it shuts down actually a couple of effects of Fadra. You can target one level 4 or lower fire dragon monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Can't do that. It's not a fire dragon because it will be a zombie in the graveyard as well. And you can use, your fire dragon monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. Again, if they launch an attack using any of these cards, which is normally what the strategy likes to do in order to then use effects, they will still be destroyed by battle because Zombie World is in play. And then even the field spell, Sangen Summoning, has been causing people a lot of problems recently. But its main sort of protection effect of during your main phase 1 fire dragon monsters you control are unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. Again, fire dragon monsters, Zombie World is not an activated effect. Zombie World is just a passive effect because it's a field spell. So therefore, that part of Sangen Summoning, which is causing problems within the meta, is kind of nullified with Zombie World being on the field. Plus, They want Sangan summoning on the field, but also you want a field spell on your on the field at some point in order for Doom King Belladrop to be able to summon himself back. So this being there on the field is really useful. And then, of course, you've got the Synchro monsters, all of which in the main combo, which is Bident, Transcendent, and Trident Dragon, all require a Dragon type tuner and one or more non-tuner Dragon type monsters, which it means that you can't summon them. Even during the battle phase or anything like that, you can't summon them because it will all be zombies, which basically forces the Tempire Dragons into going into their other plays, because admittedly the deck does play sort of other cards like Black Rose and things like that, which you can summon into. So let's have a look what we've got in the extra deck here. We've got plenty more cards which can be summoned into still, but a lot of the main combo that they want to use is kind of shut down by Zombie World. So that's how it can kind of affect a meta deck, which is it's really useful. It doesn't work against every single deck. So for example, Snake Eyes, it specifically states Snake Eyes cards on the majority of those effects rather than it being based on a type of card. But for certain strategies, it really does shut everything down. Dinosaurs, for example, is another deck that I play, and it would shut that down quite easily because you got you'd be dinosaurs on the field and zombies on the field and graveyard, and it just shuts it down completely. So Zombie World, really useful for that sort of thing. And it just causes an absolute pain. I remember I was dueling against a friend of mine recently, and I played Zombie World, and they just went, "Oh, you've just shut my entire deck down." So yeah, we want Zombie World as much as possible, not just for the benefits that it provides for us. It also allows us to turn everything into zombies on their side of the field, meaning we can use it for Super Poly, which is really useful as well. Next up, we're going to talk about Unizombie. So Unizombie is kind of the main card in the strategy. It has two really good effects that you're basically using the effect of, it's got a discard and it's got a foolish. So it's really useful for that. So Unizombie has the effect of being able to target a face-up monster on the field, discard a card and increase that target's level by 1. And then it's got the same effect of targeting a monster on the field, send a zombie type monster from deck to graveyard and increase that target's level by 1. So you're using this in conjunction with a bunch of your other effects because the zombies want to get into the graveyard, obviously. So you're going to be using those in conjunction with Unizombie, so that you can just send from deck to graveyard any zombie type monster. And other than the danger monsters, we have got all of our monsters being zombies, but the discard one card does not specify that you have to discard a zombie either, so you can use that to trigger danger monster effects. So it's really useful for the entire strategy to have Unizombie on the field, and it's the main thing you're going to be wanting to go into. Next up, we're going to talk about two cards at the same time. So these are going to be mostly your Unizombie targets. We're going to be talking about Necro World Banshee and Glow Up Bloom. So these two cards are going to be our Unizombie targets, really. We want to see in our hand one of these two cards plus Unizombie during our turn, because then we can then get a full access to Zombie World and Doom King Belladrop the entire, very easily. So Necro World Banshee allows us to play Zombie World directly from the deck. If we banish this card from field or graveyard. Ideally, you want to avoid normal summoning it, ideally, but sometimes you might have to just normal summon Necro World Banshee, because it can't be summoned off things like Shirinui Solitaire or anything like that. But sometimes, if this is the only thing that you draw into and you desperately want Zombie World, then you've got a normal summon Necro World Banshee, which is a bit of a shame. It also, Zombie World in the field zone cannot be destroyed by card effects. Also, neither player can target it with card effects. It's not really used all that much. We're wanting to get Necro World Banshee into the graveyard so that if Zombie World was to be destroyed, we can establish another one straight away. Best thing about it is, as well, it's establishing directly from the deck. So you can't Ash Blossom this. It can't be Ash Blossomed. It goes straight to the field from the deck. And then Glow Up Bloom is fantastic. It's what we want to be sending to the graveyard from the deck if possible, to avoid having to summon it to the field. But if we do summon it to the field, we've got ways to get it into the graveyard using Relinquished Anima, for example. But if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard to add a level 5 or higher zombie monster from deck to hand. Or, if Zombie World is in a field zone, you can special summon it from your deck instead. So if you've got Zombie World established, you can use this to summon Doom King Baladroc. If you haven't got it established, then there's also other cards that you can grab using this. So you could grab yourself a Jacko Bolan for another special summon to add to your hand. You could grab yourself a Vampire Fraulein as well, which is pretty useful for just protecting you from having things being destroyed and potentially taking out people who don't read cards. So it's really useful for that. You've got to remember, though, that it does lock you into summoning zombie monsters for the rest of the turn. So there are certain cards in the extra deck which you then can't go into once you have played Glow Up Bloom. But ideally, we want to see Glow Up Bloom, or we want to see Necro World Banshee in our hand and Unizombie at the same time. Instead of Necro World Banshee, we could see Zombie World in there as well, which would allow us to then discard something else using Unizombie. So we want plenty of options to be able to get Zombie World on the field and then use Glow Up Bloom to go into Doom King Baladroc. Speaking of Doom King Baladroc, here he is. Doom King Baladroc has a really cool effect. I love Doom King Baladroc's effect, and I love the card in general. So he can special summon himself in the standby phase if he's in the graveyard and there is a card in the field zone. That's any card in the field zone. It doesn't have to be Zombie World. So if your Zombie World gets destroyed but your opponent has still got a field card in play, don't forget to special summon this during the standby phase. It comes back in defense position, which sometimes sucks when he comes back on your turn. But if you can get 2 Doom King Baladrocs in your graveyard and establish field cards, then you can just keep summoning things all of the time during standby phases. It really frustrates opponents when you do that, which is why I run Doom King at 3. But honestly, you probably could run it at 2. In order to potentially get something like a Ghost Bell in the deck if you wanted to. There's a couple of things that could be cut. And then it's got the effect of once per chain, when a zombie monster except for Doom King Baladroc activates his effect. Quick effect, you can apply one of these effects, but you cannot apply that same effect of Doom King Baladroc again this turn. You can negate that effect, or you can banish one monster from the field or graveyard. So you can use this in conjunction with your own zombies in order to banish a monster from your opponent's field or graveyard, which can be really useful. But of course, if you've got Zombie World established and your opponent activates any monster in the field or graveyard, that will be a zombie as well. So you'll be able to negate those effects, which is really, really useful. I love Doom King Baladroc. I think it's a fantastic card, and it's so frustrating to deal with, particularly, like I say, if you're cycling between 2 of them being in the graveyard, and people don't realise that it can just keep special summoning itself. People tend to target this because it's got the negate, and they'll kind of, oh, well, let's get rid of this out, and then it just comes back next turn. So there's no real point of it. There's so many other targets that would be good to go for, but they tend to end up going for Baladroc, from my experience on Master Duel anyway, which is, it's really fun when they start doing that. We're just going to cover one card that's in the extra deck today, and that's Vampire Sucker. Vampire Sucker is really useful in conjunction with Baladroc, because it has the effect of, if a zombie monster is special summoned from either graveyard, you can draw a card, which is perfect. So in the standby phase of your opponent's turn, for example, if during your turn you link summoned off and you linked off your Doom King Baladroc, you can do this if you are sure that your opponent doesn't have a call by. If they've got a call by in the hand, then it's a tough one. But you could do this if you know that they've not got call by. You can link off your Doom King Baladroc into a Vampire Sucker with something else. Obviously, you probably have your Unizombie on the field at that point. And then next standby phase, Doom King Belladrop will bring itself back from the graveyard, and then you can draw a card using Vampire Sucker during your opponent's standby phase, which could be the difference of you drawing into an Ash Blossom, for example. But also, once you do that, if your opponent has got something established already on the field or in the graveyard that they're going to end up using, you can then, because Vampire Sucker is activating her effect, you can then chain Doom King Belladrop's effect to it as well, which would banish, you could banish a card from their field or graveyard, which is really useful for a strategy. Because Zombie World is not trying to finish the duel quickly. It's a bit of a stally deck at times. It's not trying to OTK all of the time. But if you can get a little bit of a stall out there, then that combo can be really useful to just get a banish straight away during your opponent's standby phase before they can activate any effects in the graveyard or on the field. So that is a breakdown of the key cards in Zombie World. That I think anyway. So the main 6 cards in Zombie World. There's so much more that you can do with this deck. It's a really fun deck to play, I think. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this little breakdown of the cards, then please do subscribe down below. Next week we'll be going through some combos and interactions which are really useful for Zombie World. But with that, thank you very much everybody for tuning in. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye.